big hello and a very warm welcome to Brand Equity. Hope all our viewers are safe and well. Our heartfelt condolences to those who have lost their near and dear ones, and strength to those who are currently battling this wretched virus. Today's episode has a heady mix of the top marketing minds of the country. The Mobile Marketing Association recently held their Impact event, which had a session on the modern marketing perspective. I'm joined today by leading marketers to discuss just that. Modern marketing in the COVID era, changes in the role and structures of the marketing function, and of course, everything in between. So let me not waste any more time. And without further ado, let me introduce to you my distinguished panel. First up, Roshni Das, Director, Marketing, Intel India. Ajay Kakar, Chief Marketing Officer, Aditya Birla Capital. Rajnish Kumar, Head of Digital and Director Consumer Strategy, ITC. Prachi Mohapatra, Marketing Head, OTC, Emerging Markets, Dr. Reddy's Laboratories. Meghna Apparao, Chief Business Officer, Licious, and last but not the least, Moneka Khurana, Country Head, India, MMA. Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining me right here. The visual is just so brilliant. I'd like to crack a joke here saying that thank you, Rajnish and Ajay, for joining us. It enables our diversity tick for a change, and hope you all are well. And I'm really looking forward to this candid and intense discussion. Start with, how life has changed for all of you as marketers in the last 2 months. While at a personal level, of course, we're all grappling with personal tragedies and we're soldiering on. What's the thinking amongst you marketers and marketing departments in terms of your role within the organization, as well as your role as communicators to the external world? Let me start with you, Roshni.
Hi, as you mentioned, I think that we're all grappling with personal challenges, and everyone is staying safe. But to your question, Sonali, I think it's a great time for responsible marketing and communication, right? Digitization is inevitable, and I was saying yesterday that technology is now essential rather than optional. So as marketers, I think there are 3 or 4 things that we've had to look at more keenly. For instance, I think the lack of social cues, the lack of the physical human connection means that we've had to retrain, say, the frontline, our customer care executives for more empathy, right? Secondly, I find like a lot of marketers have to look at waiting for when the customer is ready to engage with you rather than push marketing, right? The sensitivity quotient has to be something that all of us have to value at this point in time. And I think thirdly, the pivot has been on purpose-led marketing, right? How can we be of service to our consumers during this time? And I think, at least from a technology background, given the fact that technology is such a foundational tool to make that connection now, we've had to move to a lot of conversational marketing, responsive marketing during this time. And of course, we can't not have this discussion without our employees. I think, all of us within our communities, our friends, families, are working in very challenging times. So building on emotional resilience for our employees has also been a great focus. So I would say these 3 or 4 things.
Let me bring you in, Ajay, on just, how you and your team have been changing the way you think and maybe even adapting to the new needs, the new sentiment, the new behavior that we're seeing around.
So just a few thoughts which immediately have become new priorities in the new era or the new times. To start with, I think marketers always thought of visibility, right? You have to always be in the market. You've always to be in the face of your customers. And it's a great time for people to do, I'm there for you, we care for you, we're just a call away. So the first learning that this has done for me, that it's not visibility that's important. And I know people say in these times, visibility is important. I think relevant visibility is more important. I'm not sure if you've seen the YouTube film going around, which has clips of many giant international brands sliced together. And if you see that one film comprising of many films, we are there for you, we are there for you, we are there for you. We care for you, we care for you, we are there for you. So with everyone talking about being there and there for you, I think relevance is more important. For example, in financial services, I know that health and money worries are top of mind of people. So at this point, instead of saying Aditya Birla Capital, if I say, I hear your concerns and how I can help you. So that's the first part, which is relevance. The second is, as marketers, we are always looking at acquisition. Give us this daily acquisition dose. I think today it's about retention of customers. retention of loyalties, retention of expectations. And therefore, it's not marketing equals mass media. Without TV, what do I do? Without radio, what is there? Without out of home, what is out there? You have to find ways to engage with people when they are at home, when they have other things on their mind, and yet to create relevance. And last but not the least, I think this has taught us marketing has to equal money sense. If you don't make money sense when your company is trying to conserve every rupee, you will not have a budget.
I think that's fantastic insight. And let me come to you, Prachi, because I think you're in a space right now where we want to talk to you as consumers, right? So it's a very different space and time compared to other categories and how they need to communicate. So what's happening, in your sector?
So the primary thing for us as marketers, Sonali, has been to actually reduce anxiety. I mean, I keep on saying this, that before marketers, all of us are consumers. We would like to be treated in a certain way with the brands that we interact with. And so goes for our customers, our consumers. And there is nothing, as I hear Ajay and Roshni speak, there is nothing more than what we can do rather than to humanize our brand at this point of time. And that's precisely what we as marketers are seeking. I mean, Roshni made a point about employees. At this point of time, it's so important for us to be able to reduce anxiety, give everybody a purpose to be driven. And if they don't see the new way of a business is being driven, then there is a lot of anxiety at the ground level. So for us, we have picked up the baton and are actually trying to, at this point of time, get everybody on board so that everybody moves at the same speed. They're aware what changes are being done. They're aware how the new ways of business is being done, so they don't feel left out. That's the first point to reduce anxiety. And so goes for our consumer. I mean, as a whole, I think the industry at this point of time is, rather than people seeking solution when they're sick, they go a step behind and look at people as consumers, as customers, and get the interaction going before you actually start curative solutions.
Rajnish, looking at the FMCG space, we saw FMCG brands really go all out in terms of marketing and communication. 2021 is slightly different because the tragedy is just at a different scale. But I mean, if any sector is in an opportunistic position, it's yours. How are you communicating with customers? Because I guess that you need to. And what is the change of tone and tenor, if at all?
Brands are in the space, like you said, of FMCG. So foods, people need to eat. I mean, I'm now looking after the ITC store as well. The kind of lift that we've seen in Ashirwad, just as Atta, I mean, we had to take up separate warehouses to fill up the demand. So the brand communication, again, for each brand, Savlon, it has grown 5 times in the COVID period, 5 times.
Sure.
So the kind of traction that we are seeing some of these brands, the brands still need to be true to their original idea or what they, the attributes that they stand for. Within that, how do you communicate it in a more compassionate manner, in a manner that's not very, full of bravado or something, very outgoing, something which is still somber, something which takes into account that people are suffering, and there is of course, as marketeers, even we are human beings. So I'm sure all of us have lost friends and family and have been in tough situations.
I'm just going to change tack and, come to you, Meghna, and then Monica. We're talking about modern marketing, right? And we're talking about the modern marketing perspective. And Meghna, you would be the most modern marketer simply because of the space that you operate in. And the fact that, it's via an app, and, you promise a 90-minute delivery. And of course, at the outset, I must say I'm a Licious fan and a loyal customer. But having said that, I want to ask you your perspective, given, you worked in traditional sectors as well. What is the meaning of modern marketing? And how is it different from traditional marketing? And are we just talking about platform differentiation, or are we talking about a more nuanced, reformed way of thinking? This is my fundamental query.
So I think interesting question you're posing to me. I think it takes me many steps back, say 20 years of step back across the industry in FMCG and then e-commerce, right? What has happened in the past is data was always many arms length away. if you did anything, if you put out any marketing communication, advertising, product mix which you launched, etc., it took you a couple of weeks, maybe a month, even more, to get products on shelf, then the offtakes, then the response. Yeah. And even then you worked with sample sizes of hundreds, maybe thousands, if you 1,000 if you were lucky. I think the massive difference that I see today is on that dimension, that you're able to engage directly with your consumer almost instantly and get a response back in hundreds, thousands, even millions in hours or even days. And I think on that, there are two parts to it. First is, and all of us, I'm sure, would agree that marketing is art and science. It's logic and magic. I think the logic part of getting the data out there and available is something we have moved miles ahead. But now that you have so much more data sitting in front of you, and the reality is on many data sources, the same data is available to everyone if they want to get it. How do you create that magic layer, that intuition layer that you build on top of that data to pick up the right insights and the right actions? You may come up with 100 ideas, you can execute maybe 3, maybe 5. Right. So as marketers, I think our challenge is even more fascinating, is how do you stay connected with the consumers and build that strong voice of consumer or intuition so you can overlay on the data and take the right action. And on top of that, I think a very interesting point, building off what Rajnish said, you need agility in this environment where things are changing so fast and your historical trends actually make no sense anymore. Because what we are going through right now, the world has never been through. So the way the consumers will behave, or we as consumers are behaving, there is absolutely no pattern. So to watch the pattern and punt on something and work with a rapid speed to come up with what we think is the right thing. And I think there you have to wear your kind of student mode. Whether someone has 20 months of experience or 20 years of experience, your guess is probably going to be, as much right or wrong. So the agility to take something out there, observe it, and kind of the humility to accept you're wrong if something goes wrong and wind back. And doing all of this, I would say, lastly, in a virtual world, because we are used to getting together in a room with our teams, with our agency partners, whiteboarding stuff, jamming sessions. And today, doing all of that over the Zoom call or its equivalent, I think we're learning new skills every day.
I think the major difference what I get, let's say traditional versus modern, is the fact that today marketers are okay to say, hey, we made a mistake and retract, okay to say sorry. They're more humble. They don't have misplaced arrogance. And the fact that you have, data tools to study and react, according to what is showing up. Monica, you've observed marketers for a while, and as the CEO of MMA, what would be your key observations on modern marketing? And what do you think would be the two biggest differences in terms of efficacy when you juxtapose it to traditional marketing?
A very interesting question. So I think as far as modern marketing goes, it's only emerging from the consumer modernizing himself or herself, right? Because the consumer, it's like saying marketers got to be where the consumer is going. So if any medium which becomes dominant becomes a medium the marketer has to go to, right? So that's what we landed up talking about, even when we were trying to evangelize spaces like voice and spaces like e-commerce or other modern media, where we could see that there's a lot of traction, there's a lot of scale, and hence marketer had to learn that space to see how they can better connect with the consumer who's there, because the consumer is not coming to you, you're going where the consumer is. So that's one piece as far as modern marketing goes, right? And your second question on the tangible changes hence marketers are making, or the way it is the implications it is having, is that the data-led culture in marketing organizations is growing immensely. There is a lot of focus and a lot of effort being made into investing into data-led culture, data-led capabilities, and there is a lot more openness to experiment, which was not there earlier. Marketers want to experiment. Like Meghna said, marketers are willing to be agile, even if it means they're making mistakes, but they want to do that because eventually it's like saying, you keep hitting the dartboard and somewhere you will hit the bullseye, right? But you got to be at it. You got to have that learner mindset, and, you got to be open to trying. right? So that's what MMA is also trying to enable as a body.
Sure. I'm going to, bring in Ajay for a contra view and, of course, to spice the conversation up. Would you agree that modern marketing is just a tag that we've given? I mean, you and I have discussed this in Cannes several years when it used to be a thing, and we have new keywords, buzzwords. And talk to me about A, primarily, do you agree with that? And B, of course, a lot of people have talked about data, and we've heard this now word: big data, small data, bite-sized data, deep data, all of that. Is data really is the data interpretation and collation really working in this market?
How long can you keep a name tag which is no longer relevant? So for me, modern marketing is a term which implies there's an ancient marketing which is possibly coexisting, or something which is futuristic marketing, which will soon follow. You keep changing the terms, but for me, it is not modern marketing. It is not media. And Monica will allow me to say, it's not about mobile media. It is about marketing, and it's about media. And marketing has to be relevant, whatever be the day, month, or year. Marketing has to be relevant, whoever be the audience, in the context of the audience, his perceived competition against me, and what is it that I can offer to him. As long as what I offer to him remains contemporary, the channels may change. Today I may have used TV, tomorrow I'll use digital, day after I may go back to, for all I care, radio. That doesn't matter, because it's to each audience, what is it that is relevant, and I must use that. So it has to be relevant marketing, and it has to be relevant media. Modern marketing to me is just a tag. And I don't think we should stay with tags, because it undermines the power of what we all collectively represent, marketing. Coming back to data, I think data is very important because it helps you understand millions as one. No denying that. And we all know that. So let's not get into that. But I think the problem with data is data helps you analyze the past and predict the future. But when you have a future or a today which is unprecedented, how does data help you? And that's why I'm again coming back to traditional marketing, gut marketing, field marketing. You are a customer, I am a customer. You have to use data. You cannot be driven by data. Data can tell me the rational side of you. How can data tell you the emotional side? What will make that tear drop fall from your eye? Data cannot tell me that. And data cannot tell me, in a new environment, in a new world, what will I do?
Okay, let me ask Rajnish and Prachi if you have a contra view.
I will come in. So, partly agree with Ajay, but, the entire conversation of data is being, I think, more than making it easy to understand, we are all getting led by how big it is, how complicated it is. My conversation to marketeers I meet, or to my fellow peers also, is always that don't get led by concepts or trying to understand concept. Think practically what it does for us. I mean, all of us have like more than 2 decades of experience here. And all we have done is, as brand managers, maybe all of us actually used to pull out an Excel sheet, tabulate, cross-tabulate. That part is taken care of. Our life has actually, people like Roshni have made it easier for us now to actually take care of all these things. Now from here on, when we are moving ahead, taking a point from Ajay, life is easier to actually leapfrog from here and create that emotional connect and build it on, because now understanding data is far more easier, it has a vision, it has a mission to where the data is leading to it. So for me, I think that rather than actually getting into this entire understanding of concepts or data as marketers, most of us just have to apply the practical side of brain. What we have been doing for 20 years, as Meghna also put, we all are getting here 20, 25 years of experience. And what we have to do is to make life better from here on by understanding this, that life has actually become far more easier for us at this point in time.
Rajnish, you feel life has become easier or more difficult?
See, when you look at ITC being a 110-year-old and an 11-year-old company and being in the mindset of Indian consumer for a very, very long time, and the kind of trust that we enjoy within the Indian consumer's mind, I think there is a 2 level of communication that we have within, at least within the organization. One is at a group level, which is ITC as a brand, because you see on all our ads and all our brands, you will always see that ITC logo. So one communication is that which is typically from the corporate communication, where we only talk about empathy and what ITC is doing We brought in some 25, cryogenic cylinders and oxygen tanks and those kind of things. So everything that setting up beds, hospital beds in 3 days and those kind of things. So everything that ITC corporate is doing is being communicated there, which is the empathy element and the compassionate element. So every time I'm asked this question, I just go back to myself and my own experiences, and then I communicate and tell the team what is right, what is wrong. A simple example I'll give you, which is very, very relevant. So an ad that we run for ITC store is stock up for essentials, and it goes up every time in the first week of the month, because that's typically where all of us stock up. But suddenly I got a call from my CEO, and Mr. Malik, sends me a WhatsApp and this thing. What is it? Are you asking people to hoard? I said, I'm not asking people to hoard. It's just that this ad runs every month for the last 6 months, stock up essentials. But suddenly in this situation, it has a new meaning. It looks like we are asking people to stock up and hoard as much as possible. So immediately within 2 hours, we had to remove that ad and start running something different and remove the stock up line and, say, shop for essentials and something like that. I think we just have to go back to our own experiences, and that gives us all the answers. And to answer your question, bottom line is at 2 levels we are communicating. One is at the group level and one is the brand level, which is still maintaining its basic attributes of what the brand stands for.
Coming to data, let me tell you from a consumer standpoint, right? I have a lot of services that I am a customer to, but you still get random calls asking you the very basic question. I would assume with data advancement, people at least know that I am the customer, I'm using a product, and you don't go into selling me the product I'm already using. Try and upgrade me, okay, but I just feel the interpretation of data and usage of data still leaves a lot to be desired in the Indian context. I'm not talking about from a global context, but even from an Indian context, I think we may have the data, but how we are using it, I'm not sure. If anybody wants to have a contradictory view, please go ahead and tell me that. But this is just the broad understanding of, yeah.
You're bang on, Sonali. The day that data can crack every solution that we want for today or tomorrow, on your show, you will be having robots answering and not any human beings. The fact that you have human beings is we have to use data, we have to use technology, and we have to use it right. The day we think they have all the answers, like I said, they will be on your show and not us.
I hope that day doesn't come. That'd be really depressing. But just to yeah, sure.
I agree with that. Finally, data can give you patterns, right? Data can allow for two-way conversations. Today, you know what your consumers are thinking because they can reach you. Social allows that, right? So those are benefits of having data. But at the same time, we have to be cognizant that there is a maturity curve, right? Today, thinker, who's a great spokesperson on MarTech, and you've got 8,000 odd different tools and capabilities. So different organizations are also testing waters, and the maturity is different, between FMCG, tech, healthcare, etc. So the closer we get to adopting and, have baselining, it just becomes easier. For instance, one of the things, I'll give you a COVID example at this point in time. We are not able to predict where, oxygen cylinders are available, where beds are there, or how much vaccinations are done. Because today there is no common sets of tools and software foundations that are similar, right? Over time, with MarTech getting more and more common, we'll be able to solve things like this for the common good. And then marketers like us can apply those learnings to make the consumer journey or the experience, much more relevant and better.
I'm going to add something very interesting to what Roshni is just saying. At MMA, we have a MarTech Council, right? And the MarTech Council is continuously trying to engage to understand that how do we improve adoption of MarTech stack so that organizations can benefit more and can transform faster, right? So in lieu of which we conducted this really interesting survey, which was an organizational level survey, and it was carried out around over 100 plus organizations took part. And what's interesting, 30% of users, 30% of those organizations actually are mature from a MarTech standpoint. Now, this is on a base of only 100 organizations, right? And those 30% largely comprised of BFSI organizations or e-commerce organizations who are largely heavy users of MarTech capabilities and really utilizing it, right? That means several other categories are far from it, right? And they will definitely need to go through that learning curve, which will require skilling, which will require change in organizational structures, and it will require top-down commitment to it, because we've actually started talking the language that a CDO needs to sit on the executive board now. right? If there is a lead management we talk about, it cannot be complete without a CDO, right? So it's gone to that level. So unless and until it doesn't travel top down, it will be hard to better utilize it.
So Sonali, I'm going to respond to your first point as consumer here, and then take a point from Monica's as well, because I had a point to add to that. So as a consumer, when you're talking about getting upgraded from, say, for example, an acquisition stage to a consumer conversion stage or to a loyalty stage kind of communication, first of all, let's take a step back and think that brands who are non-digital natives, like Meghna will be an absolute digital native brand who would have cleanest and the purest form of data available with her. Brands who collect data, and the data, the seeding of the data comes from the consumer. These are mostly unclean data. Most of the data that we have primarily will not be 100% clean. So deploying a campaign on such a data takes a huge amount of, resource, time, energy from marketers like us. So that's definitely going to be, so consumer is going to be at the receiving end of some of the communication faux pas that we would do at any point of time. Taking a second point from Monica's, as to where is the entire MarTech stack building. She said 30%, and exactly, I thought that it would be around 10%. None of us actually invest in a MarTech stack like right from the word go. It's a stack which is built. It's something that as a business you invest in part by part by part. And then finally, when you get the entire stack, that's when your platinum standard of communication gets deployed. So that's a journey. So again, you will be part of the journey. And that's precisely why I think at this point of time, when we were having a pre-conversation, also the conversation of a role of a CMO, CDO also came into being. Look at how digital made inroads into any businesses. Who were the first people? Marketers. Why? Because as social media was a platform wherein all of us could start speaking, analytics, Google Analytics were one of the first tools that we started using. And hence, via marketing team, the entire first footprints of digital into any organization happened. So if you at this point of time look at how our roles are also shaping up, it's becoming far more fluid. I mean, a CDO has to be a part of it. A CIO, CTO have to have an understanding of the business very concretely. Without them understanding the business, the effect into their business from a tech part becomes a little haphazard. So again, it's a journey that I think marketer, a CDO or a CIO, CTO are all part of it.
I just want to talk to you, and Meghna, maybe you can come in here. You've been quiet for a while. We got, our yearly Group M report, Madison report, the InMobi report, all of that. And what we saw, in terms of growth of the media mix and media platforms, we saw obviously 2020 a degrowth of all platforms, and only the aberration being digital, understandably so, which saw, a decent growth. Now, in that digital pie, we saw almost 45 to 50% being given to mobile. First, I want to ask this group of marketers whether this is true for your organizations. So, I mean, Meghna, you're an aberration. You're an app on the mobile. So I'm assuming that's your core go-to place, right? But I'm asking this question because I want to talk about metrics. Are you happy with the kind of metrics that mobile is currently delivering to marketers who are investing in it?
I can go first and tell you where it works for us and where the gaps are. See, mobile is definitely going to be the lead choice of a digital medium. Yeah, because we are communicating, not communicating, as consumers, we are absorbing information largely on the mobile. And as time grows, there was a time many years ago when as a brand manager, I was told I must spend 5% at least of my total advertising money on digital. So it was like a mandate to get you on the digital curve. To now, it's probably going to be the reverse. Yeah. And hence the role of the mobile is going to just grow, I think, in the current ecosystem, with the other channels finding their places for a proper 360.
Please elaborate on this, non-social media ecosystem usage in the digital space. If you could just enlighten us.
Super. So let's say, for example, so let's take social media, Google, etc. Right? That's a platform where you would go and advertise. And you can go and advertise to a data pool of consumers who you already know are your consumers, or you can go out and seek new customers and acquisition. Yeah, so that's one of the big things that we constantly do. But like what Ajay was saying, right, the second part, which is retaining your existing customers and making them more sticky and more loyal through engagement channels. Yeah. So for example, in our case, we have an app ecosystem. So we can talk to you through push notifications, to sending you relevant targeted communication. But on that, it's a very sticky subject, just like what you called out, saying what is the right balance? What do I send Sonali that makes her interested and excited about my product versus feeling like going and turning off app notifications on her device because I'm spamming her too much? Yeah, so what you say, how you say it, and when you say it. And I'll use an example from my ecosystem. So if you're a Bengali, you probably love your hilsa fish. If you're Tamilian, you probably love your seer fish. So if you're actually having a catch of the day event on your platform, I don't want to be sending a visual and an interesting recipe about a hilsa fish to Chennai. It's unlikely to get any reaction, yeah, or the reverse. So knowing this information and using it is in the right manner. The second piece, and again, I'll use an example. Say during the week, there are certain consumers who tend to cook meat and fish, etc., largely on the weekends. Yeah, it's a luxury, it's a feel good, it's a pick me up. But the data tells you they buy you on the weekends. So how is it that you engage with these people? So for example, Monica may do all her shopping on a Friday evening, but I may be the one who gets up on a Saturday morning and then decides what I want. So the right time to talk to Monica is Friday evening. The right time to talk to me is a Saturday morning. All of these are the tools which you can build off the things that you own and create this relationship with the consumer. And I believe this direct to consumer play, which is now stepping up across the ecosystem. I think a lot of FMCG players are dialing this up, and pan industry is something which is really going to stay and stick.
Ajay's ready.
We talk about digital marketing, we talk about mobile marketing. I'm calling it customer marketing. Yeah. First, tell me who's your customer. Tell me what's your product. Tell me what's your category. Then I will decide what's the medium. So let me represent my own category. I'm financial services, but let me divide it by two. When I'm taking money from you, I know that the senior citizens or the people who are above a certain age have more money to give.
Yeah.
They may also have spectacles, and if they have spectacles like me to see anything on the mobile, for what? Is it for purchase and just a click? Sure, they will. But if it's for information to take a decision, which is important in money, this ain't happening. On the other hand, if you look at the youngsters to whom you want to give money and they want to take, let's say consumer loans, right? He wants a 5,000 rupee loan, he wants a 15,000 rupee. They will look at mobile first and they won't look at anything else. And at the click of a button, they will. So I think it's not about the medium which decides what should the strategy be. It's the customer who decides what's the medium, therefore the strategy. And for that customer, through that medium, what's the metric? And that's where I think the new media, if I may use that term, has yet to establish itself. I don't have any metric. So it's like Meghna had said, I was told 5% to dalna hi hai. I think we are in that era right now. Okay, thoda to dalna hi hai. Let's talk about mobile marketing. Like we used to talk about digital marketing. But is it right to my audience, and is it delivering to what I expect from that particular audience? I think those conversations have to come faster and more convincingly than they are right now.
Absolutely. Rajnish, I just want to take the point forward from what Ajay said. ITC is obviously also investing a lot in digital, but as a marketer who's investing his money, are you happy with the metrics that you're getting? And are you happy with the efficacy of what's happening on digital?
So it's about when you create a campaign or when you make an investment. For example, I'll talk about the consumer data hub, and we have a very large set of consumers.
Sure.
We said we had an objective is what is it going to do on my media performance, and typically in terms of targeted marketing. So you look at first party data, you look at platform data, you look at third party data. These are the three large data sets that we have, within which we have millions and millions of consumers, right? And within that, again, we have cohorts and segments and personas and so on and so forth. Every campaign that we deploy has all three elements: first party data, which is our ITC data, the platform data, which is typically Facebook, Instagram data, and then we have the third party data from partners like Axiom or ZeoTap and all that. every campaign is measured, and so far we've seen that the returns are humongous. I'll give you an example in terms of, if you use the platform data, and that's the case I sell to my management. If you do not have a consumer data hub and you have a consumer, how do you look at these two scenarios? You'll be forced to go to a Facebook or Instagram and do your marketing, right? So the matrix that is coming is, if your success rate is 0.5 on platform data, it is typically 2 or 3 on the third party data, is as big as 7 or 8 on your first party data. So you can see the amount. So the same 1 rupee is now 8 rupees. The same 1 rupee is now 10 rupees, same 5. So if you're investing 10 crores in your media on digital, you're actually investing, getting results worth 50 crore rupees, because now you have your first party data, which you have collected and you've created and you have had a good sense of it.
I have a doubt. So when you say this, are you talking about impressions, engagement, or are you talking about actual sales?
So every campaign also is set up for either traffic or conversion. So the objective of, so if you're doing a video ad, for example, you could be looking at views and the view through rate, how much time the particular ad was viewed. And that is up. So when I'm saying 0.5, 0.2, 245, I'm talking about in general in terms of whatever objective we set out to. For example, if I take ITC store, which we look at every Thursday, right? I always see that this same metrics or same pattern is more or less following. So for example, when I'm doing cost per acquisition is the single metrics that I'm trying to achieve. My cost per acquisition from platform data to first party data and from third party data is stacking up like this. And therefore my media spends are much more efficient. And that's how you get the ROI.
Okay, you're very kind. But if I had to just, bring a finale into this conversation, I just want to ask, this panel, if there is so much acceptance in digital, in terms of, you rely on first party data, third party data, your own intelligence, more sophisticated tools coming. But having said that, the willingness to have a unified metric is not there. They are resistant. Why is the same expected of traditional media? Why are there different sets of values that you have for different media? Anybody want to go for it? I'm open.
I can go for it.
The metrics are owned by walled gardens in the case of, so it's like Google and Facebook and Instagram. I mean, if it's my field and my cricket and my ball, why would the hell would I? So that's why we never use any of their metrics to measure our campaigns. None of them. So we use our own metrics in terms of what is the success, what was the objective, did I achieve certain amount of customers, did I acquire, what was the value of the product that they bought, so on and so forth. So we set up our own campaigns and because if you just look at, we know that how many likes will come. That's what Facebook algorithm is. It's not like you've got some great content out there. And by the way, I was having a point which I wanted to make. Entire content that we make, 95% is always optimized for mobile, because we know that most of the content is consumed on the go. So our campaigns, digital campaigns are all content on the go and all for mobile.
So actually, I want to just spin this a little differently to your question. Unified Matrix is a journey. We are having multiple conversations with a lot of large measurement bodies and with a lot of marketers, where there are, of course, a lot of work in progress, tracks happening. But in the meantime, what we've been talking to our members and the larger industry is that the way to currently measure efficacy is to be able to measure something called ROS, which is return on ad spends. As long as you're able to measure an ROS, irrespective of the medium, and as long as, like Rajnish was saying, you know what your outcome matrix is, right? Finally, it's about whichever the medium, what is the outcome you want? And if that medium is best suited to deliver that outcome, by all means, invest into it. And that is your matrix, right? And that can be different to different marketers for different campaigns, right? And which can be set. And sometimes that matrix may look extremely good in digital touch points, or for that matter, mobile. And sometimes it can look very good in traditional touch points. So it depends on what you're chasing.
I can just chime in here on this. So there's a challenge on digital metrics that we were discussing. But if I step back, if I look at so-called traditional media, or whatever word Ajay would suggest is appropriate. Yeah, so you say the TV, the outdoor, the print, the radio. I think those are equally immeasurable, yeah, and indexed to a certain metric. Yeah, at best, I feel in the digital world there are few more data signals, if not everything that you want. Yeah, so as a marketer, I don't feel less of a more of a constraint in that sense when I'm tossing up media. The other piece, which is a different point to enable this, while we're talking a lot about metrics and is the data there, do we have the data, I think another very critical thing that I feel, see and sense is the talent in the community being able to use this data. So as marketers, how are we getting comfortable with the metrics, having the right intuition to pick which metric? Both Ajay, Rajnish, all of them said it, yeah, depending on what you're doing, the metric will be different. You need a strong sensibility to pick the right metric for the campaign, so the baby doesn't get thrown out with the bathwater, right? And how do we have talent who's able to do all of this? So I think we're at this cusp of talent building, which is a very different skill set. So for me, that's a gap and an opportunity that exists.
Meghna, there's a question of intent also, and that's my personal view, because every campaign can be set up for measuring the right objective. Sometimes there's a laziness on our part also, because it suits us also to keep things hazy and not get tied down. As marketeers, if we are creative people, it's such a great campaign, everybody's clapping. What is happening? Nobody wants to measure that, because that's where all the skeletons will come out of the cupboard, right?
Absolutely. Well said. But nobody has really answered the pointed question I asked. Thank you, Ajay. Yeah.
If you ask me to make a sweeping statement, I'd like to believe that as marketers, we are yet navigating in the dark. Where is our rupee going? To what extent is it successful? To what extent can I attribute an ROI for all my marketing spends? I have a marketing budget of X, the ROI, and that is Y. I don't think we're in a position to do that today. So if I look at categories, if I look at brands, and if I look at agency partners. So for example, on digital medium, I don't have 5 players using the same metrics. I don't have 5 partners using the same metrics. I don't have 5 of my own campaigns using the same metrics. So the fact is that if you look at a company and you want to evaluate a company, you will possibly ask turnover, you will possibly ask profitability, possibly ask customer base. Now, then you can ask 100 other things. Now, what are these 3 equivalent, which as marketers, we can measure across medium, aside per medium? Is there any standard metric, which, like I said, I go one vendor to another, I go one brand manager to another in the same company, one campaign to another, and I can evaluate? Forget the fact that, like I said, the X budget of all of marketing. I don't think we yet have that. So to that extent, I think marketers are yet flying blind.
Actually, that's
precisely. Thank you for saying it as it is.
Yeah, and actually, that's the problem with us as marketers. A common denominator is still a long way off. I mean, all of us are trying to find the point where we are measuring our business, as Ajay is mentioning. For once, Ajay, I would agree with you 100% on this, that all of us at this point of time actually are finding our own KPIs, our own ROIs on this. And it might be a business, it might be a conversion, but at this point of time, the common denominator is definitely looking as a gray area.
I'd like to also add something on a lighter note, yeah? And maybe my fellow panelists, you would have experienced it. If you walk into one of these meetings and after 15 minutes, there's so much of jargon floating around that there are blank faces all around you. Yeah, because the number of new metrics that people invent and the more complicated they make them sound, and then you're looking around saying that, was it only me? Yeah, that didn't get it. So I think the minute that we are all able
to... Hang on, Meghna.
For the minute we can all go into meetings and we understand what everyone is saying very clearly in the first 10 minutes, then you know that the job is done. So I think that's where we're a long way from.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, on that note, I think it's been an intense discussion. I've really, run out of time, overstepped on time because the conversation was just so rich. Thank you everyone for your time, and here's wishing you health and safety going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all of you.
Lovely chatting. Bye-bye.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.